Welcome to today's explainer. Look, if you or someone you love is gearing up to take that massive, life-altering step into recovery, your mind is probably just racing right now. You're likely wondering what the rooms actually look like, who you're going to meet, and honestly, what you're actually going to go through day by day. So today we're going to explore exactly what to expect in that daunting first week of residential rehab. We're going to specifically look at the individualized doctorate-level care model at Seasons Malibu. We really want to understand how a high-quality facility actually structures your healing, literally from day one.
Okay, let's dive right into this with a quote straight from our source material because I think it just perfectly captures the reality of the night before treatment. It says, "You might feel relief and dread in equal measure, sometimes in the same breath. That's normal." If you're sitting there feeling completely overwhelmed right now, it is so absolutely crucial to validate those mixed emotions. Making this choice is huge. It's entirely normal to feel totally terrified and incredibly hopeful, all at the exact same time. To help ease some of that anxiety, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. Intake in the first hours, detox and medical stabilization, your dedicated treatment team, finding your daily rhythm, navigating the emotional intensity, and finally, common concerns and healing. Seeing this predictable, step-by-step structure laid out is exactly how a top-tier facility like Seasons Malibu brings calm to the chaos.
So let's start right at the very beginning with Section 1, intake, and those incredibly important first few hours after you walk through the front doors. Now, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, or SAMHSA, highly recommends a thorough biopsychosocial assessment right at admission. Basically, that just means taking a deep look at your mind, your body, and your social environment. You'll sit down for a really warm, honest conversation covering your medical background, your mental health, and family dynamics. And that's followed by a brief medical exam just to get a baseline for your safety. You know, the whole point of those personal questions isn't to judge you at all. It's to gather a full, complete picture of your health. Seasons Malibu actually uses this detailed intake information to craft a highly customized, individualized care plan. They're not just going to hand you some generic, one-size-fits-all protocol. The more honest you are right up front, the better they can build a plan that fits exactly what you need to heal. Once your personalized plan is all set, we move into the physical reality of those first few days, bringing us to Section 2, detox and medical stabilization. And look, we have to acknowledge this upfront. This phase often feels like the absolute hardest part of the entire journey. If your body has developed a dependence on substances, withdrawal can be really uncomfortable and, honestly, sometimes medically dangerous. Over these first 2 to 4 days, the medical team is monitoring your symptoms super closely. Your body is essentially recalibrating itself. You might feel irritable, foggy, or maybe find that sleep only comes in these tiny fragments. But remember, you are in a closely supervised setting with professionals who have literally seen this exact thing hundreds of times. So the crucial point here is that you won't be expected to just push through on willpower alone. There is no white-knuckling required. If you need it, medication-assisted protocols are put right into place to ease those brutal withdrawal symptoms like nausea, anxiety, insomnia, and tremors. Your safety and comfort are absolutely paramount while your body does the hard work of physically stabilizing. As that physical fog finally begins to lift, you transition into the psychological healing phase. Let's talk about the people who are actually going to guide you through this in Section 3, your dedicated treatment team. Because you really aren't doing this alone. You're going to be introduced to a collaborative, multidisciplinary team. At a strong program like Seasons Malibu, this means you get your own primary therapist, a psychiatrist or psychiatric nurse practitioner, dedicated case managers, and incredibly empathetic support staff. This whole team collaborates daily, constantly adjusting your care as they learn more about what you specifically need as you evolve. A really major part of this team's focus is something called integrated treatment. The National Institute on Drug Abuse, NIDA, has emphasized for a long time that treating co-occurring mental health conditions, things like depression, PTSD, or anxiety, at the exact same time as substance use produces much, much better outcomes. Now, don't worry, your first therapy sessions aren't going to force you to unpack your entire life story all at once. Those early sessions are simply about building trust and laying a solid foundation for this deeper, integrated work down the road. Let's move forward and see how this all builds as we enter days 3 and 4. This brings us to Section 4, finding your daily rhythm, where the initial chaos really starts to settle into a steady, predictable routine. While every program is a bit different, a typical day in residential treatment involves a really rich mix of activities. You're going to have individual therapy several times a week, group therapy to build coping skills with your peers, and psychoeducation so you can actually understand the neuroscience of addiction. Throw in wellness activities like yoga or meditation, and even something as seemingly simple as scheduled meals, which, by the way, is huge when your body is relearning what a normal, healthy structure actually feels like. Now, you might be wondering why this schedule is so jam-packed. Well, the psychology behind this is actually fascinating. Idle time in early recovery tends to just feed anxiety. Having somewhere to be and something genuinely positive to focus on gives your mind a much-needed break from that exhausting loop of worry and self-doubt that almost always dominates that first week. But even with the absolute best schedule in the world, the first week is heavy. That brings us to Section 5, navigating the emotional intensity. We've talked about the physical environment, but the emotional toll is often super unexpected. And this brilliantly illustrates a really striking contrast that a lot of patients face. People usually anticipate the physical discomfort of withdrawal, right? But what catches them completely off guard is the emotional rawness. You might find yourself just crying for no obvious reason. You might feel sudden anger, profound numbness, or the strange, really heavy grief for the life you built around the substance, even if you know that life was completely falling apart. If you experience this, it is absolutely vital to remember this insight. These feelings are a sign that your nervous system is waking up after being suppressed, sometimes for years and years. It's not a sign that things are going wrong. It is a healthy, incredibly positive sign of awakening. And remember, your therapists and your peers are right there to help you sit with these volatile feelings safely, so you aren't just swallowed by them. Let's move into our final section, Section 6, Common Concerns and Healing. This is designed to rapidly address some of the most common, lingering anxieties that patients and their families hold before they even walk through those doors. This is easily the #1 most frequent question asked during intake. Will I have access to my phone and the outside world? While policies do vary, a lot of residential facilities significantly limit phone and internet access, as well as visitors, during that super critical first week. And it is so vital to reframe how we view this digital detox. Limiting outside contact isn't a punishment, it's protection. Early recovery is incredibly fragile. A stressful text, a difficult phone call, or honestly, even just endlessly scrolling social media can pull you right back into those old, destructive thought patterns. This boundary gives you the space to focus entirely on yourself, perhaps for the very first time in years. Another major question we see all the time: can I leave if I want to? The short answer is yes. Residential treatment is entirely voluntary. However, the source material makes it abundantly clear that leaving early significantly damages your chances of sustained recovery. If you feel that urge to just run, the absolute best thing you can do is talk to your therapist before making any sudden rash decisions. And then we arrive at the ultimate underlying fear that almost everyone has, even if they don't dare say it out loud. What if I'm scared? What if I am absolutely terrified of the unknown? I just love the answer our source material gives here. The truth is, you probably will be scared, but fear doesn't mean you aren't ready. It simply means you understand that you are making a massive, necessary life change. Bring the fear with you. It is not going to disqualify you from healing. We'll conclude our explainer today with a really powerful final thought. Look, the first week is exhausting. You aren't going to feel magically transformed by day 7, but choosing a facility like Seasons Malibu does something so vital, it stops the momentum. In its place, something new starts to take shape. It interrupts that brutal cycle of using and regretting, and it bravely starts a brand new trajectory. You'll be a week into the hardest, most worthwhile thing you've ever done. So what could possibly be more important than taking that very first step today?